The cold October rain hammered against the windows of Dover's customs facility as Queen Camilla's black Range Rover approached the checkpoint. Inspector Sarah Chen had been working border security for 12 years, but she had never expected to flag down a member of the royal family. Something felt wrong about this unscheduled crossing. Camilla sat in the back seat, her usually composed demeanor showing cracks of nervousness. She clutched her handbag tighter as the vehicle slowed to a stop. Her protection officer, Detective James Morrison, exchanged worried glances with the driver. This wasn't part of their planned route to France. "Your Majesty," Inspector Chen said politely as she approached the vehicle, "I'm afraid we need to conduct a routine inspection today. New security protocols." The Queen's face went pale. "I'm sorry, Inspector, but I'm rather in a hurry. Perhaps we could arrange this another time." Chen noticed the tremor in Camilla's voice. In all her years of service, she had developed an instinct for detecting when someone was hiding something. The Queen's behavior triggered every alarm bell in her experienced mind. "I'm afraid that's not possible, ma'am. Everyone must comply with security checks regardless of status." Detective Morrison stepped forward, his hand instinctively moving toward his radio. "Inspector, perhaps we could expedite this process. Her Majesty has important diplomatic matters to attend to." But Chen stood her ground. Recent intelligence reports had mentioned unusual activity around high-profile individuals attempting to cross borders. She couldn't ignore her training, even for royalty. "Please step out of the vehicle," Chen requested firmly but respectfully. Camilla's hands shook as she gathered her belongings. She carried 2 large designer bags, both seemingly heavier than they should be for a short diplomatic trip. Her usual confidence had evaporated, replaced by visible anxiety that didn't go unnoticed by the growing number of security personnel. Inside the inspection room, Chen carefully placed Camilla's bags on the examination table. "I'll need to search these thoroughly, Your Majesty." "Please, Inspector," Camilla pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can't we discuss this privately? There are matters of national security involved." Chen paused, studying the Queen's face. She had seen desperate people before, but never someone of such high standing looking so cornered. Her duty was clear, but something in Camilla's expression made her hesitate for just a moment. "Ma'am, if there's something you need to tell me before I open these bags, now would be the time." Camilla closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "Inspector, what you're about to discover will change everything you think you know about the royal family." With growing apprehension, Chen unzipped the first bag. Inside, wrapped in velvet cloth, were dozens of photographs. But these weren't ordinary pictures. They showed various members of the royal family in compromising situations, clearly taken without their knowledge. Some appeared to be from private family gatherings, others from behind palace walls. Chen's hands trembled as she unwrapped more items. Hidden beneath the photographs were audio recording devices, small cameras, and what appeared to be transcripts of private conversations. The dates on the materials spanned several months. "Your Majesty," Chen said, her voice tight with shock. "What is all this?" Camilla sank into a chair, her composure finally crumbling completely. "It's evidence, Inspector. Evidence of something so terrible that I couldn't let it remain hidden any longer." The second bag yielded even more disturbing contents. Financial documents, bank statements showing large transfers of money, and correspondence between unknown parties discussing the arrangement. Chen realized she was looking at what appeared to be a massive conspiracy involving people close to the throne. "Someone has been blackmailing the royal family for months," Camilla whispered, tears streaming down her face. "They have been using these materials to control our decisions, influence our public appearances, even dictate our personal relationships." Chen felt the weight of the revelation settling over her. This wasn't just a border security issue anymore. This was potentially the biggest scandal in modern royal history. Why were you carrying all this yourself, ma'am? Why not involve the proper authorities? Camilla looked up with desperate eyes. Because the proper authorities can't be trusted. Inspector, some of these documents suggest that members of Parliament, police officials, and even palace staff are involved. I didn't know who else to turn to. Detective Morrison, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. Your Majesty, with respect, carrying these materials across international borders could be seen as an attempt to flee or destroy evidence. No, Camilla stood up abruptly. I was taking them to someone I trust in France, someone outside this web of corruption who could help expose the truth. I couldn't stay silent any longer while my family was being manipulated and threatened. Chen examined more of the documents. Bank transfers showed payments to various media outlets, suggesting that even some news stories about the royals had been fabricated or manipulated. Phone records indicated regular contact between the blackmailers and people within the palace walls. Ma'am, you realize I have to report this immediately to my superiors? Please, Camilla begged, grasping Chen's hand, be very careful who you trust with this information. These people have eyes and ears everywhere. If they discover that I've tried to expose them, they've threatened to release materials that could destroy the monarchy entirely. Chen felt the enormous responsibility settling on her shoulders. In her hands lay evidence that could topple governments and destroy one of the world's oldest institutions. The photographs alone showed royal family members in situations that would cause international incidents if made public. What kind of threats have they made against your family? Camilla pulled out a crumpled letter from her coat pocket. They know everything about us, Inspector. Our schedules, our private conversations, our relationships. They've threatened to release intimate recordings if we don't comply with their demands. The letter was typed on plain paper with no identifying marks, but its contents were chilling. It detailed specific knowledge of royal family activities that only someone with extraordinary access could possess. It mentioned Charles's private health concerns, William's family routines, and even Harry's recent movements in America. They've been controlling our public statements, Camilla continued, her voice growing stronger with determination. Making us support certain causes, meet with specific people, even influence government policy indirectly. We've been puppets in our own lives. Chen studied the timeline of events. The blackmail appeared to have begun shortly after a major royal event where security protocols had been temporarily relaxed. Someone had used that opportunity to plant surveillance equipment and gather compromising information. Do you have any idea who's behind this? The evidence points to an international group with connections to both organized crime and foreign intelligence services. They're not just after money, Inspector. They want to control British influence on the world stage. As Chen continued examining the materials, she discovered coded messages that suggested the conspiracy reached far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Names of prominent business people, politicians from multiple countries, and even other royal families appeared in the correspondence. Detective Morrison's radio crackled to life. Sir, we're getting unusual activity on the royal communication channels. Multiple encrypted calls coming in from Buckingham Palace. Camilla's face went white. They know. Somehow they've discovered that I've taken the evidence. Inspector, you're in danger now, too. Chen looked at the surveillance equipment scattered across the table. If this conspiracy was as extensive as the evidence suggested, then everyone in this room had just become targets. The photographs showed capabilities that went far beyond simple blackmail. This was sophisticated intelligence gathering on a scale that threatened national security. Your Majesty, I need to secure this evidence immediately and contact the highest levels of government security. Be careful who you call, Camilla warned urgently. Some of these documents show communications that suggest corruption at the highest levels. We don't know how deep this goes. The room fell silent as the magnitude of the situation became clear to everyone present. Chen realized that what had started as a routine border inspection had uncovered a conspiracy that could shake the foundations of British society. The evidence in these bags wasn't just about royal family scandals. It was about the systematic infiltration and control of one of the world's most powerful institutions. Outside, the rain continued to fall, but inside the inspection room, 3 people stared at materials that could change the course of history. Chen knew that within hours, this discovery would set in motion events that would test the very stability of the crown itself. 6 months earlier, the royal family had no idea their lives were being systematically documented and manipulated. It all began during the annual summer gathering at Balmoral Castle, when what appeared to be routine maintenance work provided the perfect cover for an elaborate surveillance operation. Marcus Webb, a seemingly qualified security technician, had gained access to the castle through a legitimate contracting company. His credentials were perfect, his background check flawless, and his expertise in electronic systems made him invaluable during the castle's security upgrade. What no one knew was that Webb was actually a former intelligence operative who had gone rogue, selling his skills to the highest bidder. During those 3 weeks at Balmoral, Webb planted over 40 sophisticated recording devices throughout the castle. Hidden cameras no larger than coins were embedded in picture frames, light fixtures, and even furniture. Audio equipment was woven into the very fabric of curtains and carpets. Every private moment, every family discussion, every personal revelation was being captured and transmitted to servers thousands of miles away. The operation's mastermind was Viktor Kozlov, a Russian oligarch who had been seeking leverage against Western governments for years. Kozlov had assembled a team of hackers, former spies, and corrupt officials from multiple countries. Their goal wasn't just financial gain. They wanted to create a network of compromised leaders they could manipulate to influence international policy. King Charles first noticed something was wrong in late September when a private conversation he'd had with Camilla about his health concerns appeared almost word for word in a tabloid newspaper. The article was disguised as speculation, but the details were too specific to be coincidental. When he confronted the palace press secretary about potential leaks, he was assured that all staff had been thoroughly vetted. The real breakthrough came when Prince William received an anonymous email containing photographs of him and Catherine during what they believed was a private moment in their garden at Kensington Palace. The email demanded that William publicly support a specific trade agreement with Russia, claiming it would benefit British businesses. If he refused, more intimate materials would be released to the global media. William immediately contacted Palace Security, but their investigation revealed a disturbing truth. The surveillance was so sophisticated that traditional security sweeps had failed to detect it. The equipment used was military grade, designed to be virtually invisible to conventional detection methods. Detective Chief Inspector Amanda Foster was called in to lead a discreet investigation. Foster had experience with high-profile espionage cases, but nothing had prepared her for the scope of what she discovered. As she dug deeper into the technical aspects of the surveillance, she uncovered a trail that led to shell companies in 12 different countries. "This isn't the work of amateur blackmailers," Foster reported to palace officials during a classified briefing. "We're dealing with a professional organization with resources that rival those of nation-states." The investigation revealed that Kozlov's operation had been years in the making. They had infiltrated not just the royal family, but members of parliament, business leaders, and influential media figures. The royal surveillance was just one piece of a much larger puzzle designed to give Kozlov's network unprecedented influence over British decision-making. Meanwhile, Camilla had been conducting her own investigation. As someone with extensive social connections and access to both formal and informal information networks, she began to piece together patterns that the official investigation had missed. She noticed that several recent royal engagements had been suggested by people who weren't usually involved in planning such events. Her breakthrough came when she recognized a pattern in the blackmailer's demands. They weren't random. They aligned perfectly with the business interests of a specific group of international companies. Every time the royal family was pressured to support certain causes or meet with particular individuals, those actions benefited the same financial network. Lady Margaret Thornton, Camilla's closest friend and confidant, had worked in intelligence before her marriage to a prominent businessman. When Camilla shared her concerns with Margaret, the conversation took a dangerous turn. Margaret revealed that her late husband had mentioned similar manipulation tactics being used against other European royal families. "It's happening across the continent," Margaret explained during a secretive meeting in her London townhouse. The Norwegian royal family faced similar pressure last year over oil drilling rights. The Spanish royals were compromised over trade agreements with Latin America. This is bigger than just Britain. Margaret's connections in the intelligence community confirmed their worst fears. Kozlov's network had successfully compromised multiple royal families, creating a web of influence that could shape international relations for decades. The materials collected weren't just being used for immediate blackmail, they were being stored as insurance policies for future geopolitical negotiations. The situation escalated when palace staff members began reporting unusual technical problems with their personal devices. Phones would mysteriously reset, computers would slow down, and private emails would somehow become known to people who shouldn't have access to them. The surveillance had expanded beyond the royal family to include anyone in their inner circle. Dr. James Richardson, the royal family's personal physician, made a disturbing discovery during what should have been a routine medical appointment with King Charles. Richardson noticed that someone had accessed Charles's medical files without authorization. Detailed information about the king's health, including test results that were supposed to be absolutely confidential, had been viewed by unknown parties. "Your Majesty," Richardson said carefully, "I believe someone is building a comprehensive profile of your health status. This goes far beyond casual surveillance. They're gathering information that could be used to predict and manipulate your future decisions based on medical concerns." The realization that even medical information wasn't safe pushed Camilla to take more drastic action. She began secretly photographing documents, recording conversations with her personal device, and building her own archive of evidence. She knew that if the situation became public through normal channels, the blackmailers would have time to destroy evidence and disappear. Her investigation led her to discover that several recent royal decisions had been influenced by the blackmail. A trade delegation to Eastern Europe that Charles had been reluctant to approve was pushed through after subtle threats. Public statements supporting certain environmental initiatives had been crafted not by palace speechwriters, but by the blackmailers themselves. The psychological impact on the royal family was devastating. They began to question every relationship, every conversation, every public appearance. Charles developed insomnia, constantly wondering if his private moments were being watched. William became suspicious of palace staff, analyzing every interaction for signs of betrayal. Camilla's breaking point came when she discovered evidence that the blackmailers were planning to expand their operation to include William and Catherine's children. Surveillance equipment had been ordered that was specifically designed to monitor younger individuals. The thought of George, Charlotte, and Louis being subjected to the same invasion of privacy filled her with rage and determination. Working with Margaret, Camilla developed a plan to gather all available evidence and take it outside the normal channels of power where the corruption couldn't reach. They identified a former MI6 operative living in France who had expertise in exposing international conspiracies and could be trusted to handle the sensitive materials properly. The plan required Camilla to personally transport the evidence across international borders. as digital transmission could be intercepted by the same people who had compromised their communications. She would have to take enormous personal risk, knowing that if caught, she could face charges that would destroy both her reputation and the monarchy's credibility. As she prepared for the journey, Camilla received one final piece of evidence that changed everything. Palace maintenance staff had discovered additional surveillance equipment in areas that hadn't been accessed during the original Balmoral installation. This meant the conspiracy included people who currently had access to the royal family, people they trusted and interacted with daily. The evidence in her bags represented months of careful investigation, personal risk, and the potential salvation of one of the world's oldest institutions. But it also represented the most dangerous gamble of her life, as she prepared to cross international borders, carrying materials that could either save or destroy the British monarchy forever. The Secure Communications Center beneath Whitehall buzzed with unprecedented activity as Inspector Chen's report reached the highest levels of British intelligence. Within 2 hours of Camilla's interception at Dover, the Prime Minister, head of MI5, and the Cabinet Secretary were gathered in an emergency session that would determine the fate of the monarchy and potentially reshape international relations. Director Sarah Mills of MI5 reviewed the evidence with growing alarm. The sophistication of Kozlov's operation exceeded anything they had previously encountered. "This isn't just espionage," she reported to the Prime Minister. "This is systematic infiltration designed to turn our most sacred institutions into puppets of foreign influence." Meanwhile, at Dover, Inspector Chen had secured Camilla in a safe house, while teams of counterintelligence specialists analyzed every document, photograph, and recording device. The Queen sat quietly, finally relieved that her burden was being shared with people who had the power to act on the information. Detective Chief Inspector Foster arrived from London with a team of specialists who began the delicate process of verifying the evidence while protecting both national security and royal privacy. They discovered that Kozlov's network had been even more successful than initially believed. Several recent government decisions had been influenced by compromised officials who were being blackmailed with their own surveillance materials. The first major breakthrough came when cybersecurity experts traced the digital signatures on some of the surveillance equipment. The trail led directly to a warehouse in Estonia, where Kozlov's team had been manufacturing and distributing their devices across Europe. Within hours, coordinated raids by international law enforcement agencies began dismantling the network. King Charles, upon learning that Camilla had risked everything to expose the conspiracy, immediately flew to Dover to be with his wife. The reunion was emotional, with Charles expressing both gratitude for her courage and concern for the dangers she had faced. Together, they provided additional details that helped investigators understand the full scope of the blackmail operation. "They made us feel helpless in our own lives," Charles explained to the investigators. "Every decision felt compromised, every private moment felt violated. Camilla's bravery in exposing this has given us our freedom back." The investigation expanded rapidly as evidence from the bags revealed the identities of compromised individuals throughout British society. Parliament members, business leaders, and even some members of the judiciary had been unknowingly manipulated through similar surveillance and blackmail tactics. Viktor Kozlov, operating from his fortified compound in Montenegro, realized his network was collapsing faster than he could contain. In a desperate attempt to maintain leverage, he began releasing some of the royal family materials to international media outlets. However, the coordinated response from British intelligence and their international partners meant that much of the released information was quickly discredited or legally suppressed. The public reaction was complex and nuanced. While some of the leaked materials caused temporary embarrassment for the royal family, the revelation that they had been victims of an extensive foreign intelligence operation generated widespread sympathy and support. The fact that Camilla had personally risked everything to expose the conspiracy was seen as an act of remarkable courage and patriotism. Prince William issued a carefully crafted public statement acknowledging the situation while emphasizing the family's determination to rebuild and strengthen their security procedures. "We will not be intimidated by those who seek to undermine British institutions," he declared. "Our commitment to serving the nation remains absolute." The investigation revealed that several recent royal scandals reported in the media had been artificially created using manipulated surveillance materials. This discovery led to a broader examination of media manipulation and resulted in new regulations governing the verification of sensitive information before publication. Margaret Thornton, Camilla's friend who had provided crucial intelligence connections, was privately honored for her role in helping expose the conspiracy. Her network of international contacts proved invaluable in coordinating the response across multiple countries and preventing Kozlov from simply relocating his operations. The technical analysis of the surveillance equipment revealed capabilities that concerned national security experts. The devices could not only record audio and video, but also transmit real-time location data and even monitor electronic communications within their range. This discovery led to a comprehensive review of security protocols at all government and royal residences. Dr. Richardson, the royal physician who had first noticed the medical file breaches, worked with intelligence agencies to determine exactly what health information had been compromised and how it might have been used to influence royal decisions. His cooperation helped establish new protocols for protecting sensitive medical information for all high-profile individuals. The palace staff underwent extensive security reviews, resulting in the discovery that 3 employees had been unknowingly compromised through their personal financial situations. Rather than being prosecuted, they were provided with support and protection while helping investigators understand how the infiltration had occurred. Kozlov's arrest in Montenegro came after months of international legal proceedings. The evidence gathered from Camilla's bags proved crucial in securing extradition agreements from countries that had previously been reluctant to cooperate with British authorities. His trial would eventually reveal the full scope of operations targeting not just Britain, but royal families and government officials across Europe. The financial investigation uncovered assets worth hundreds of millions of pounds that had been obtained through blackmail and manipulation. These funds were frozen and eventually used to compensate victims of the conspiracy and improve international cybersecurity cooperation. Inspector Chen received recognition for her role in uncovering the conspiracy, but she remained focused on the broader implications of what had been discovered. This case showed us that even routine border security can be the first line of defense against sophisticated international threats, she reflected in her official report. The royal family implemented comprehensive new security measures, including advanced counter-surveillance technology and revised protocols for all public appearances and private gatherings. However, they also made a conscious decision to maintain their accessibility to the public, refusing to let the conspiracy fundamentally change their approach to royal duties. Camilla's courage in carrying the evidence across international borders was quietly recognized through a private ceremony attended only by immediate family members and key security officials. She had literally risked her reputation, her freedom, and her safety to protect both her family and the institution of the monarchy. The international implications continued to unfold for months afterward. Similar surveillance operations were discovered targeting government officials in France, Germany, and other European nations. This led to unprecedented cooperation between intelligence services and the establishment of new protocols for protecting high-value individuals from sophisticated surveillance threats. The psychological impact on the royal family was addressed through confidential counseling and support services. Learning to trust their environment again after months of feeling constantly watched required professional help and time. The family emerged stronger but more aware of the constant security challenges they faced. The conspiracy's exposure also led to significant changes in how the British government approached international relations with countries known to harbor groups like Kozlov's network. New sanctions and diplomatic pressures were applied to prevent similar operations in the future. 1 year later, as Camilla stood in the gardens of Buckingham Palace watching her grandchildren play, she reflected on the events that had nearly destroyed her family's privacy and autonomy. The conspiracy had been defeated, the perpetrators faced justice, and the monarchy had survived its greatest modern threat. Her decision to risk everything for the truth had proven to be the salvation of the institution she had sworn to protect. The royal family's public approval ratings, initially affected by the leaked materials, eventually reached record highs as the public recognized both their victimization by foreign agents and their courage in fighting back. The story became a powerful reminder that even the most powerful institutions required constant vigilance to protect against sophisticated threats. The evidence that had once filled 2 bags at a Dover border crossing had ultimately saved the British monarchy and exposed an international conspiracy that might otherwise have operated undetected for years. Camilla's journey from victim to hero had transformed a moment of apparent crisis into one of the royal family's greatest triumphs over adversity.